Can Ayurveda be a real science? Is Corona actually worth it? And have we lost traditional medication?
Tried, tested, and trusted medicine. Basically, traditional knowledge is limitless. It is endless. It has shown the impact. It has shown the results. The problem is the labeling and the claims.
Our guest tonight is Dr. Deepak Acharya. He is an ethnobotanist and his current research areas include scouting and documentation of indigenous knowledge. And fun fact, he is the only Indian to be featured in the cast of weekend edition of Wall Street Journal Asia. He got his doctorate from Dr. H.S. Gaur University, Madhya Pradesh. He's published many books and articles, and he's the co-founder and director of Abumka Herbal Private Limited. Furthermore, he is a member of Bureau of Indian Standards, Mirror Committee member, and Board of Studies in Botany. And he's also appeared on various national TV news channels. That's a bit about our guest. Now let's get on with the show. I've always been fascinated by the fact that, how these tribal healers, or rather people with traditional knowledge of medication, which allopathy or Western medications never dreamed of thinking, have come up with cures for something we've never even thought were possible. I mean, you're pretty sure most of you would have heard such stories, right? And I often, being the skeptic I am, I've ignored those stories. But it's worth looking at them. And all of us always think that all these traditional medications come under the umbrella of Ayurveda. And once we hear Ayurveda, we think it's pseudoscientific. And which is fair, it's fair. But guys, I just found this out recently. I don't know how many of you know this. Ayurveda actually means knowledge of life. And my point remains, Ayurveda is a science, but I do get this. There are a lot of gray areas in that. And I just personally believe that's because they don't have a good PR till now. And by PR, I mean public relations agent, not Pranay Reddy agent. Okay, that's a really bad joke. Please edit it out.
No,
You're not
no,
gonna edit it out?
no.
You're gonna keep it in so people will see my misery on a bad joke?
Of course.
Now, coming back to the point of Ayurveda about a lot of these gray areas, yes, there are. A lot of it still isn't proven yet, at least by modern science. But it's worth taking a look into it, especially considering the times we're in, or rather even looking at it as another source, a way to join that with Western medication. Who knows? It might actually work. And I personally believe that if government, there are much more regulations, rules and regulations on clinical testings and trials, maybe this can be a new form of medication which is approved by all people. And who knows? This might make Coronel the hottest new medication in the market. And if Baba Ramdev could, if you are willing to partner on something, pay us money for promotion, I don't mind. Regardless, that's why I thought it's good or rather important for us to take a look into Ayurveda and even traditional medications for that matter, which are really important to document, guys. So here's an interview with Dr. Deepak Acharya, touching and talking about those subjects and more. So in the last part, we were actually going towards, how plants say, you can get, they're like age-old medicines. Like, some of the things that we have in our culture that they've been there. I'm so sorry. They've been there for so many years before allopathy or Western medicine ever came. So what I want to know is before we go into tribal medication and documentation, पहले मेरे को ये जानना है कि आयुर्वेदा और tribal medication में फर्क क्या है? Like, are they the same? Yeah, are they different?
Ayurveda is mother of all, no doubt. But there's a technical difference in between Ayurveda and traditional knowledge. So Ayurveda is a text, written text, where formulations are notified, and there are written formulations which these Ayurvedic doctors prescribe, or or the companies they prepare products or manufacture products based on those Ayurvedic formulations. So Ayurveda is basically a group of literature, say 50 plus literatures, which which in combination treated as Ayurvedic pharmacopoeia of India today. So Ayurveda is in a way you may say that Ayurveda is a written text, completely documented text, but traditional knowledge, the knowledge is being floated from generation to generation through the words of mouth, never been documented so far. So anything which is passed from generation to generation through the words of mouth is traditional knowledge, and it is being floated. Nobody has so far documented it thoroughly. So the documentation is a challenge here. But Ayurveda is a documented text. So any Ayurvedic medicine, any Ayurvedic formulation is purely a derived formulation or derived formula based on those 50 plus documents, those 50 plus entirely, I mean, those 50 plus documents are Ayurvedic Pharmacopoeia of India. So uh, any formulation written over there is an Ayurvedic formulation. But this knowledge, traditional knowledge, if you talk, when you talk about traditional knowledge or tribal knowledge, it is nowhere documented so far. So it is the knowledge is passing from generation to generation to in the virtual domain, you may say.
So that actually brings me to the question of ये traditional knowledge जो है, how is that different from Ayurvedic documented text?
Yes. So traditional Ayurvedic documented text is, say, just an example I give you, like Triphala. Triphala is the three equal parts of Harra, Beheda, and Avla, three different plants. So it's a notified formulation. It is a combination of three different herbs in equal proportion. So nobody is going to change it. Whenever there's a talk about Triphala, only three parts, Harra, Beheda, and Avla, will be there in equal proportion. That's it. So it's a codified formula, you may say. So no one can really play with the formulation. But as far as traditional knowledge is concerned, a knowledge which is traveling from generation to generation, which is in different domain right now, not been documented so far. So if you go and meet a tribal healer, and uh, if you have a problem of, say, kidney stone, and they prescribe a particular herb for treating you for kidney stone, but the season is different, so they might replace the herb and give you another alternate option. There's a possibility of adding value to it or playing with the formulation. So traditional knowledge is like that. Say, just take an example. Your grandmother, she used to give you a decoction when you suffered cough and cold. So a tea with ginger, or maybe a tea with black pepper. But my grandmother used to give me a combination of black pepper, long pepper, and ginger, and something else. So it changes to different changes based on geographical location, changes based on the availability of herbs. So anyone can change it, anyone can try it and test it अपने हिसाब से कर सकता है. So tried, tested and trusted medicine basically, but not documented.
Before we go into Ayurveda's acceptance in today's society, Usipela, I want to talk about documentation in and of itself of these tribal medications, or rather traditional medications which has been passed on from generation to generation. You, along with being a botanist, you and your company, they have been documenting such tribal medications for over 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. And so you must
Yeah.
have uncovered a lot of hidden treasures none of us might have known of.
Not not lot of, but three remote pockets we worked. Basically, I started working in Patalkot. It's a deep valley in central India. So it's a deep valley, 79 square kilometer area valley, which is 3000 feet below this Gonds and Bhalias. They are the tribals. They are residing there for hundreds of years, thousands of years. So I started working from Patalkot. Then I came to Gujarat and started documenting this knowledge in South Gujarat, a district called the Dangs, South Gujarat. So Dangs, this was my second destination, and then I went to Rajasthan, Savai Madhopur area, Ranthambore National Park area. So these three remote pockets are there. We work. Basically, it's traditional knowledge is limitless. It is endless. So just we worked in it took 20 years to document bit of knowledge in 20 years in from three remote pockets. So a huge opportunity as well as necessity to uh, to to document this knowledge, because it needs complete dedication if you want to really document this knowledge. So
So, sir,
not much, but yes.
so what about the future possibilities, Kinky? I mean, for people in my generation who are gonna go into that field, how much do you think there are possibilities in documentation or documenting in such traditional in medicines?
Oh yes, yes, yes. A lot of opportunities, because traditional knowledge, it has shown the impact. And I, being a scientist, I'm a microbiologist and an ethnobotanist. So I have seen the modern science closely. I have seen the ancient science closely. And since this company is there, so I have seen Ayurveda also, because the products, uh, we cannot register our product as a tribal medicine product. We have to register it under the category of Ayurvedic proprietary medicine. So we have to understand the rules and regulations involved for Ayurveda. So I have seen closely traditional knowledge, Ayurveda, and modern medicine. So I can relate it very much, because there's a greater need to document this knowledge. And if we fail to document this knowledge entirely is going to get vanished very soon, because majority of the herbal healers are those who are actually healers, those who are actually treating patients are in their 80s and 90s. If you fail to document them timely, and if someone dies, this will not only be a loss to the community but to the entire nation. So there's a greater need to document it. And why why I find this documentation is uh, why I found this documentation very important for the upcoming generation, or next generation, or the second line of my people and my friend. Why? Because in modern medicine it takes 15 years and millions of dollars to develop a drug. And if you consider this traditional knowledge as a shortcut tool, because it has shown the impact, it has shown the results. And if you consider these the potential practices, the potential herbal practices as a shortcut tool to develop new drug, instead of randomly going for trials, say for example, for corona, if we randomly start trying and collecting herbs and extracting them and finding out the molecule or maybe marker compound, and then going for checking the antiviral effect or efficacy of particular herb, it will take years and years and years. Instead of randomly searching or finding out any option or for medicine or maybe vaccine, whatever. But if you have a repository of knowledge, you have some potential practices, why not to focus on those practices? Why not to focus on those plants which are proven medicine for, there are I have seen uh, herbal healers, those who claim to cure patients of HIVs, patients those who are in thoracic cancer, and even some critical disorders. I have seen patients getting cured. Even fellows or the doctors from Tata Memorial, they had given up once. They had couple of cases were there which were completely given up by the modern medicine doctors. But I have seen healers treating them, and now they are surviving and they are enjoying their life. So why not to consider this knowledge as a shortcut tool? So let us, means there's a great possibility if we document, if we really document good traditional healers, potential traditional healers, and create a repository of their knowledge, and bring it to the mainstream modern medicine or mainstream modern research system, and try to find out whether the claims which are being made by these tribesmen or healers are true or not. Let us go. Let us. I'm not just endorsing the tribal practices. Let modern science and traditional knowledge come together. Let them work in, instead of looking towards this knowledge with a great deal of suspicion. Let us join our hands. Let the modern medicine come and join hands with these herbal healers. Try to find out. Definitely there will be something coming out in this. So in last 20 years we created a repository of 30,000 different herbal formulations for various health disorders. I have created an offline database. I can show you someday. And if you ask any disorder, the practices are there. So I'm just talking about three remote pockets in India. Think about India. India is a vast country with a tremendous, botanical regions or biological regions, and then we have desert here, we have snowfalls there, we have heavily rainfall area. So different climatic zones here, different herbs are there, and we are just we haven't yet explored much of it. So there's a great hope. One must document. This is such a challenging field. We must document the traditional knowledge.
So, sir, then coming from traditional knowledge to now how society views upon that, and even Ayurveda for that matter. Now, you said Ayurveda is very well documented,
Yeah.
but why is there so much skepticism as to saying that there's a lot of gray area, or rather to say that we Ayurveda is a pseudoscience? That's the common term that they use. Why
Yeah. Yeah.
do you say that? Do you think better testing or better government regulations can?
Yeah. China and India, they were on the same platform 30 years back, 1990. We were on the same platform as far as the alternative medicine system is concerned. But they developed themselves an amazing with an amazing effort. Now the alternative system of medication is an authorized system there. The Chinese traditional medicine system is treated as good as allopathy. So if you go to any hospital there in China, they'll first ask you whether you want to go for an allopathic cure or an Ayurvedic cure or traditional Chinese system cure. So they treat both the branches of medicine system equally. But see in India, see a civil hospital here and find out an Ayurvedic hospital, you will find the difference. See, we have always we have been very biased as far as the alternative systems are concerned. Now the entire world is focusing towards alternative system. So now we have open up. Now we want to explore and find out the opportunities. Now Ayush department is acting quite prominently, so I think the good time is coming, and Corona has given an opportunity to people to think about the alternative systems. But now everybody is talking about kadas. Everybody is talking about their immunity. Now people will they never before this Corona era or the time, people never realized the importance of herbs. We never treated herbs like the way we are treating it right now. So negligence is an important thing which happened in recent past. We what what oil is to Gulf can be herbs for India. So, so we have to understand till today there is no authority in India which emphasizes you to go for a clinical trial before launching your product in India, and there is no third party or no third agency which gives you an approval of or authenticity of a particular formulation. So it should be must. So if any product comes into the market, it should be clinically proven. Otherwise, any Tom, Dick, and Harry can come and register a product and bring a medicine in the market. So and the basically loss is there for the country, because people after using those fake formulations will come to a conclusion that this is not going to help me and this don't actually work. So what happens, the entire image of the Ayurveda or alternative system or any herbal medicine gets vanished, or it gets hampered. So authority, clinical authority, they should play an active role. And again, this is a great opportunity for young fellows like you who could start a clinical research organization for finding out the efficacy of herbal formulations. In India today, not more than five. I would count it on my fingers. I can count it on my fingers. There are not more than five research organizations or approved US FDA or Indian FDA approved clinical trial agencies which purely or 100% work for the clinical trial of herbal medicines. No, we don't have any facility such here. But if you talk about allopathic drugs, all big pharmas have their own CROs, their own research and development.
Being in that same line, I want to ask this Patanjali, obviously Coronel, is something I wanted to ask you. Like, people are very skeptical about it. And to be very honest with you, I don't know if I should believe that it's 100% effective or not. So, in your thoughts, do you think
No.
maybe proper testing from the government side can maybe maybe verify it?
Yeah. No, even I opposed Baba's claim when they launched it. The same day I opposed it on my Facebook timeline. You can see, because I don't have any problem with a product coming in the market. I have a problem with the claims. If you say that this is a treatment for corona, so So this is not going to be a fair as far as the image of Ayurveda is concerned. Well, we are sick people here in India. We are hopeless also. So we just run behind the marketing gimmicks. So people will run just to just thinking that this is a boon for them to combat corona. There will so this is the medicine for corona. Now I'll go and buy it. Immediately they'll go and buy it. Think about those who buy it and they don't find results. So what will they think? That this is hopeless, this is not work, and Ayurveda is altogether hopeless. So so the problem is with the labeling and the claims. So Drug Magic Regulatory Act, which is 1994 Act, which says you cannot claim directly or you cannot put it on your label saying that this there are 18-20 disorders which cannot be claimed by any medicine. You won't find any diabetes medicine saying that this is for diabetes. Everybody will say that this is for diabetes management. You have to play with the word. But if you say this is a medicine, so this creates confusion. So confusion was there that coronel is not a medicine. It is a supplement which boosts your immunity. Definitely it will work because it contains ashwagandha, contains tulsi, it contains giloy. All these herbs are known for their uh, effectiveness. So there's no question in the formulation. My question was no, until and unless this is scientifically proven with all data open with whom you treated it, whether there were patients who were in ICU, whether there were patients who were in critical conditions, whether there were patients in patients with severe problem, or just mild cases or asymptomatic cases. If you want to conduct a trial, take 100 200 patients, critical patients, give them medicine and show whether this medicine is not working or not. Then you can at least say that this is 80% or 90% of medicine or cure for corona. But until unless just saying it a medicine, it won't make any sense. That's why I opposed it. But as far as the efficacy of the product or the formulation is concerned, I definitely say that this is going to help you. This is going to support your immune system definitely. But no, it is not a medicine.
So I guess again, coming back to scientific formulas, it's always been about testing, validation, and specificity on how and with whom and where you tested it. So I guess
Mm.
until that, I don't think we can claim, or anybody can claim that their medicine is effective.
Nobody, no, nobody should claim until unless it's a scientific. There's a scientific complete protocol is maintained, complete data is managed, and that too with a third party, not your uh, uh, the your choice, not with your choice. Third party means third party. It should be critically observed, and so you have to go through n number of phases. Like in you have to go through clinical trial phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, animal trials, side effects, whether in long term any effect is there, and toxicity if it is involved there, if at all is there any toxicity or maybe side effect or maybe shelf life. N number of things, n number of parameters are there. But randomly checking or giving medicine to 30-40 people, those who are asymptomatic, and then saying that 30% 40% patients were recovered in 3 days, then 6 days, and then 10 days. No, it don't make sense. Go for critical cases, treat them, then it makes sense. Otherwise, yes, it is supplement and definitely going to support, not just to asymptomatic but to all, even critical or anyone can take it and it will definitely support.
Well, sir, I guess this is really educational for me, and I'm pretty sure for everyone watching this as well on Ayurveda and on why it's important to document traditional medications. So thank you is what I'm trying to say for doing this, and there are not a lot of people in your sector, and so for finding someone who's so passionate about it is really a pleasure for me to talk to. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Pranay. Thank you.
Now that's a lot of information to observe about Ayurveda. And trust me, that's a lot of stuff I didn't know, and I'm pretty sure most of y'all didn't know as well. If you did, good for you. You know something. Go party out. But be wary. These are just the traditional medication, and there's still a lot of work to be done. And there's a lot of scope for us as a young generation to get into this field as well. Now, if you're asking me for how much will it pay, I honestly don't know. But hell, for the love of it, why not? And more than that, I also was curious and wanted to find out what more these plants can do. I mean, can they actually cure coronavirus or, find out medications through them, which, Western medication hasn't done so far? Well, to find out all those, check out our previous part where we talk about if plants truly are a miracle cure. Now, if you like the content in this episode, please do like, share, and subscribe.